We're going to resume lesson 12, so this is our second hour, and we're going to start looking at integrating our file uploads into the rest of our PHP Tunes application. Now we've already got a place in our database for this. If I go and take a peek at our artist table in the database, when we created it, we created a photo column, which right now is null, but we already have a place to store artist photos. Now there's a couple of ways we can do this. If I describe the table, notice that we created the photo column as a varchar, as a string. So there's two ways you can store file uploads when we're connecting them to data. The typical way most web applications work is rather than embedding the file itself in the database, we simply store the file name. We upload the file to the server, but we store the name just as a string. Now, other applications, other developers, some developers will use the blob data type, binary large object, and actually be inserting the file itself in the database. I'm generally not a fan of using blob storage because what happens when we embed the files themselves rather than just the names in the database, our database size scales really, really quickly. And often that means expensive hosting costs. And often the larger the databases are, the slower they are. So our response time on running queries and loading pages, it tends to degrade. So I prefer this mechanism where we just store the file name. It's not wrong to use a blob, but it's not my preferred method. And so what we want to do is be able to add an artist and upload a photo, or edit an existing artist and suddenly attach a photo, which we could also then modify with any artist record. So that's kind of where we're going. Now you may have different artists here. So on the My Artist page, I want to be able to that's interesting. Oh, there's my edit and delete. So when I add or edit, I want to include a browse button here so that I can upload a photo. Now you may have different artists in the database. For the artists that are here, I have taken photos from Wikipedia. So if you want, you can work with any files you want. If you actually want the photos of these artists, you can download and open this zip file on D2L in the lesson 12. It's this item, photos to download for today's lesson. If you want those, you can download the zip and extract it on your machine. I'll maybe put a couple of notes. I'm going to open up my home page and my README file, and I'll just say images source. Okay, so I'm just going to put on a description on the home page. I'm not trying to take credit for these images. So on my home page, and I'm going to add this to the README file as well in my Git repo. I'll just copy that paragraph. So the next time I do a git push, my README will reflect the image as well. Image source. So we're going to modify our all of our artist pages, our my artist page, the artist details, as well as the save and delete artist. We want to modify all these to incorporate the ability to upload and display an image. So let's start on the artist details form. We want to enable a file upload option here when we are adding or editing. So let's open up our artist details. We'll deal with it first just when we're adding a new artist. It's going to be a little simpler. We'll deal with the update a bit later. So I'm going to scroll down to where my form tag is. For me, that starts on line 46. We want to include a file upload, so we'll add the encoding type of multi-part form data. So the same way we did in our test form. So add the encoding type attribute inside the existing form tag that we've already got on this page. And then we're going to scroll down to the bottom of our form, and just above our submit button, we're going to add on a new label and input. So somebody new. So after our last field set, I'm going to add another one. I'll put on a label. For photo. With a class. So we want it to be formatted the same size as our other labels, so everything's nicely aligned. And then we'll add our file input box. Input type equals file. I'll give it a name and an ID of photo, because that's the name of the column in our database that we will use to store any image names. Okay, so there's our new field set. It goes below our genre field set. So you can see from the green lines 80 to 83, that's our new stuff. We'll see how it looks. So if I refresh, cool, that's what we wanted. We wanted a label appearing right underneath. Maybe I'll change this instruction. It should no longer say all fields are required, because the photo isn't required. The photo is optional, really. So I'll change that instruction. It says all fields are required. I'm going to change that to say star indicates required fields. And then I'll put a star beside name and genre. So this way there's a visual indicator. Our users on our website know they've got to enter a name, they've got to choose a genre, but they don't have to upload a photo. That one's optional. So I've just added a star into those first two labels and changed my instruction. So the user can see there's a star here and a star here, but not here. So I can still create an artist. I'm not required to add a photo. Now we'll come back and we'll do more work on the artist details when we're editing, but look that we're starting with adding an artist. So now we need to add some code to our Save Artist page that's going to check the files collection, see if there was a file upload. If there was, we want to validate that it's a photo and there's a proper image. And then we'll want to ensure we give it a unique name, save that photo into the IMG directory. This holds all our images. And then we also want to modify our save code, so the name of that file, that unique name, will also get included in the database when we save that artist. So a fair bit to do over on Save Artist. So let's open that one up. So the form part's pretty simple, really. We just added the encoding type, and then a spot in the form with type equals file. Most of the coding and work and logic needs to go in the save page. So we'll add a field here, photo. Photo upload option. Okay, so we're not necessarily going to have a photo. And then we can scroll down underneath all the existing validation code. We want to check whether there was a photo uploaded, and if there was, we want to validate that it was a PNG or a JPEG. If not, we'll show the user an error. And if it's a valid image, we're going to want to give it a unique name, save it to the images directory, and then also include it in our save to the database. Photo upload validation. So if our photo variable, if that name is not empty. So if the user doesn't upload something, this will evaluate. It will mean there was no photo, so we don't have to do any checking or renaming because there's nothing there. The user added an artist but didn't add a photo. But if the photo has a name, in this case, let's say name equals photo name for starters. We then want to get where the photo is in cache, which is the TMP name. Because we need to use this property to inspect the file type. We want to make sure it's a PNG or a JPEG. So we'll say if MIME content type, if it doesn't equal image.png, and it also doesn't equal image/JPEG. So it's not a PNG and it's also not a JPEG, it's invalid. So we'll notify the user and we'll set OK to false. We don't want to continue to do anything else. If our file is a PNG, Tyler, it's not based on the extension, it's the MIME content type, so it's the same. Good question. Remember, this is not checking the extension, this is actually checking the MIME content. So even if the extension is JPG, the MIME content type will be image JPEG. If our file is an image, We're going to use the session object to create a unique name, so our file will not be overwritten. So there's lots of different ways we can do this. Somebody asked this morning, couldn't we just use like the date and time? Yeah, we could. I guess it's possible two users upload a file with the same name at the same exact time. So that would still cause a conflict. I like using the session object because it's guaranteed to be unique to each browser session. So I like using the session ID method. That'll give us the unique ID of each browser session. And I'll just depend on that session ID as a prefix to my file name. So it will convert a file with a name like this to something like this. So now we can call move uploaded file from our temp directory to our images folder, and the final file will have our new unique name. So we're keeping the original name, but we're appending a unique identifier on to the beginning as a prefix. And then we can modify our insert SQL command further down on the page to include a photo parameter here. And then we'll have to bind that parameter. All right, I'll leave this code up for a minute. So this will help us ensure we can also add a little validation on the front end. It's not foolproof, users can get around it, but we can set a prompt that when the user clicks browse, by default, they're only going to see PNG or JPG files or JPEG. So we can modify that in our form as well. So we can just try this out right now. I'll try to add a new artist and I'll include a file that is not an image. So we should get this error and everything should just stop at this point. So if I add new artist, I'm going to browse and pick something that is not a JPEG or a PNG. When I go to save this, it tells me that the file type isn't valid. Next, we want to modify the insert statement. So when we add a new artist, we are also adding a value for the photo. I'm going to modify our insert command. We're going to leave update for now. We'll come back and do the update, deal with update after. And then we also need to bind it. So the parameter is called photo, but our variable is called name. I'm not going to call the variable photo because that photo was an entire object, if you recall. Our photo variable here. In fact, sorry, we never even used a variable called photo. So the variable, the final unique name, we call $name. So that's the string we want to add to the database. Ooh, that's a problem. Okay, I think I have to call it photo. We've already got a variable called name. We've got artist name. Yes, thank you. There's the rare time I actually caught one of my mistakes before I let it crash. Sorry, so we'll just rewrite this a little. We'll change this. This should be photo. In all of these instances, sorry about that, we're going to call the variable photo because we've already got a variable for the artist's name. Make sure inside our photo validation, I had 4 instances of the variable called name. I'm changing all those to be photo. And same in our parameter. We're saving it as a string, which is 100 characters. So we should be able to test this out now. I should be able to add a new artist and include a PNG or JPG along with them. And then we can also see how this unique naming with the session ID works. And so I'm going to add first artist. I'll pick a photo here. This one called poster, that's in red. I'll try to save. Okay, it did not like what we just did. Line 38, what's going on? Oh. Oh. Whoops, I knew we missed something. I'm doing a really bad job with variable management. Need to do this. File equals I missed this step. Get the file, and this should be file. My apologies. So if a file was uploaded, store it in this variable, and then we can use that variable to access the other property. We'll try that again. So I'll just resend. It says artist saved. And now when I go to my artist, here's my first artist. So the question is, what happened to that movie poster? Well, let's look. In my images directory, here's the movie poster. So here's the poster, and you can see it's got this session ID in front of it. If I look in the database, refresh my list of artists, here's my new record, and it's got the correct file name attached. I'm going to try this again in a different browser and upload my other poster picture, and it should be named uniquely now and won't overwrite this one. I'm going to go to Chrome just to try this out. So I've got different artists, different users. I'm going to add a new artist here. Artist 2. But I'm also going to upload my file called poster, different one. So this one's blue. So I can save. And if I look in the database now, there are 2 images called poster, but notice I get a different session ID in Chrome. And this will prevent that first file from being overwritten. So I've got two different files uploaded. Both of them were originally called poster.png, but I'm using the session ID to ensure they're named uniquely. So even when I used a separate browser, separate user account, and upload a file with the same name, Yama, okay, you know what? That's a good point. Let me try that. I think I did that. Let me just do that again. So I'm going to browse and pick a PDF. Okay, so I get the error, but you're saying, oh yeah, the file is still here. Ah, okay. So, oh, right, yeah, because our code continues on. So this should be in this stuff should be in an else. Then it won't happen. I'll just wrap those lines in an else condition. Thank you. I thought I saw that and I wasn't. Right. Or we could call exit here as well. That would also work. That's right. So we shouldn't be renaming and calling move uploaded file if we have a file type validation. Let me delete that and try it again. It shouldn't be. But now I get the error. And my PDF is not here. Thank you for pointing that out, Yama. Good catch. So now when we add an artist, we are properly saving the file with a unique name to the IMG folder, and our database is correctly recording the unique file name and attaching it to each artist record. We're ensuring we don't have duplicates and no files are being overwritten. So that's useful. But we actually want to display the images. That's kind of the whole point of including the images, is that we can see them in the website, which right now we can't do. So we want to display those images here, but I should also be able to see the image when I go into the artist details. We should see it at full size, and maybe here we just see it as a thumbnail. I'm going to do one other small thing first on the artist details. On my input type equals file, I'm going to set an accept property. And this allows us to set the default file types. So when the user opens their file dialog box, it's only going to show these files. Now they can change it, but it's also helpful. It will increase the chances that they upload the right kind of file if we add this accept attribute into our file input control. So I'll show you what this looks like if I go to add an artist and click browse. Hang on a second. I just did it wrong. Sorry. This might be, I think I might need the dot. Let me try it that way. There. So now in my supported file types, you'll see it defaults to PNG, JPG, JPEG. Now you can still change it. I can still choose all files, and then I can see everything. But the default with this is it will only show the files with those extensions. So that's going to increase the chance that we get the right kind of file being uploaded. So we can specify as a comma separated list which file extension we want to show. I want to open the artists page now and add a space to display. So after the genre, well, I don't even think we need another heading here. We'll see. Inside of the loop, we're going to add a third column. And we're going to display a thumbnail of the images if we have one. So I'm going to add a third column here that I'm going to open, and then I'm going to close because we need some logic. So in here, we're going to say if not empty, our artist photo. If there is a photo name attached as part of the artist record, we are going to print out an image tag. And we're going to use that file name as part of the path inside the images folder. So if there is a photo, we're going to render it into the third column of the table. We're going to open the column and close it regardless, but where we have a photo, we're going to show it. And we don't want to print the name of the photo. We want an actual image tag. And the source is set to our images folder / and then our unique image name. I think we're going to need to modify this a bit, but let's see how it works. So when I go to, oh crap, I put it on the wrong page. Sorry. This code should go on the My Artists page. That's fine. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just copy those lines. And then I'm going to just undo all my changes. Sorry, wrong page. Just put this one back the way it was. There. The main artist page only shows the name and genre. It's the My Artist page we're going to put this in. So that's going to go here, after our genre name. So between our genre name and our delete column, we're creating, opening and closing another column with our logic to show a photo where we have one. I also need to change the header row and add an empty heading. Here, after genre, I'm going to put in one empty TH tag. We don't really need text above the image. The images can just show up. So My Artists, okay, sort of working. We might need to shrink this to a thumbnail size. In Chrome, yeah, this image is obviously way, way too big. So I'm going to shrink this. So I can use a bit of CSS for this. I'll add a class. which I will call thumb. And I'll set a size, standard size for this in our style sheet. So I'll define a class called thumb, and that way all the images on this page are going to be scaled and show nice and small. So in my custom style sheet, maybe we'll set the width to 100 pixels. So we won't get those giant images, we'll get small ones. Yeah, that's better. So when there's no image, that's fine, just get a blank space. But if there is an image, it's going to show up. So this seems to be working fine now. When we add a new artist, adding the image when we're editing an existing artist, it's going to be a little more complicated. So there's going to be two parts, actually three parts to it. When I go to edit an artist, I want to see the current image here. And then if I browse, I should be able to replace it. So we're going to go back to our artist details, and we want to modify it so that the current image is displayed on the page, artist details, if there is a image already attached, we should see it here. We're going to go up near the top to our query. This is where we're populating the page with an existing artist that we are editing. So let's initialize a photo variable as null. And then if we fetch an artist, we're also going to fetch the photo. It might be null, it might have a value. In either case, we're going to set that property. So I've added line 11 and line 35, you can see the little green. New line. So add line 11, initialize our variable to null, and then we're populating it from the result of our fetch operation. Then down at the bottom of our page, we can evaluate our photo variable. If it's not empty, we will display the artist photo, but we'll do it at full scale rather than a little thumbnail. So underneath our last field set, we'll open up set of PHP tags. So if our photo variable is not empty, again, we'll echo it out. So let's print out the image at full size if we have one. Oh, and I should put it in a div tag. So here I get my artist one I have a poster for. If I don't have an image, it doesn't show up. I'll just wrap this in a div. So that our save button appears underneath the image, not beside it. So it goes down here. Now adding the code for updating. So what if I want to update an artist and now I want to add a photo in? So I've got a bunch of photos. We downloaded them from D2L. So I click here, there's no photo, but I want to browse. So pick my Blink-182 photo. We now only have to make one change. This isn't going to work yet. We have to do one thing on the artist details page. So if I save this, right, I get an error. What's missing from save artist? We only have to modify one line. Well, Yama, you're close. We're not doing an insert, right? Because this artist already exists. Right, it's the update. So we want to modify the update statement. Yeah, we've got the parameter here. That's why it crashes, because it's looking for a photo parameter, but we don't have a photo parameter in our SQL yet. So we're also going to set photo equal to photo. I'm going to add the photo column and parameter into our update statement. This should now allow us to attach images to an existing artist. With this little bit I've highlighted in blue. Because we are binding the parameter here, but the parameter needed to be included in our SQL command, our SQL statement. So I'll try it again now. Go to Edit Blink, save. When I go back to my artist, image is here. So now I can start to populate the images. Okay, so things seem to be working pretty much as we want. One problem. So this is working. However, what if I go here? I'm changing the artist name. Now they've already got an image here. I don't want to replace the image. The image is fine. I'm just changing the name. I'm going to save my update. And now we're getting an error here. So let's go back and see what's going on. So line 88, so down here where it tries to update the database, it's giving me an error. So I think the problem is we haven't defined this variable. This code never runs. So I think maybe we need an try an else. Otherwise, we'll initialize photo to null. We'll try that. So if the photo is empty, we'll just initialize it to null. We'll try that and see what happens. Fresh. Okay, so that makes the error go away. But look what happened to my, what happened here? All I did was change the name. Didn't want to get rid of my photo. Why did this happen? If I go and edit Blink-182, hit save, and go back. Why are the photos disappearing? Close, Yama. If we look in the database, if I look at the Blink 182 and my first artist, it's nulled out the values. So the way we've written the logic is we've said, if no file got uploaded, then set the photo to null. So it's working as we've coded it, as we've instructed. The problem is we might want to update something in an artist record, but keep the existing photo without having to re-upload the same photo again. Our logic right now doesn't allow for that. So we'll need a little trick that says if no file was uploaded, we need to check if there's an existing photo value, we want to keep that. So we'll need to add logic here. To keep an existing photo, if any, so it doesn't get accidentally. Okay, so we will do that when we come back. I'll upload everything to Git. I know we did a lot this hour. Gonna upload to Git. We'll add some logic to prevent that. That's right, Tyler. And then we'll also make it so that if we delete an artist, we should also be deleting, if there's an image, we should delete it from we shouldn't keep those images if the artist isn't in the database anymore. So we'll do that as well. Okay, it shouldn't take, we'll be done by 2:30 today. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break here. I will upload again to Git, and we'll be back in 10. We'll clean up that update problem, and we'll deal with delete. We'll call it a day.